A very good day I bid to Dr. Khalid. Our group will present on the probability and statistics presentation with the title of Online Gaming Addiction Among Students in University Malaya. So here is the members of our research team, Khor Hew J, which is me, Leong Jing Wei, Teh Kai Keat, Wan Han, and Shan Hong. So here are the contents that we will be presenting for today.
Hi, I'm Wan Han, and allow me to brief you through our research background. The online world brought by the internet is considered to be an indispensable part of our everyday life. As each new technology develops, the internet brings many ways to an individual's life, especially youths. Today, we'll look into the relationship between online gaming and university students. Playing online games on the computer has an important place in individuals' life and can be characterized as harmless since it's just a leisure activity for them. However, users being unable to stop playing will lead to online gaming addiction, which by its very definition interferes with daily life, studies, expenses, health, and personal relationships.
So right now, let's talk about the problem statement. Addiction towards online games has become rampant in the past few years and is one of the big issue not only in schools and university but also in work life. Our society overlooks the commonest of addiction towards online games because it is now much harder to control as most of the time people spend their time playing online games instead of socializing with friends and family. This will affect their study, living expenses, health, and also relationship with their family and friends. Therefore, our group did our research to investigate how online game addiction affect university students' daily expenses, studies, health, and personal relationship.
Let me run you through the objectives of our research. So we want to determine whether online gaming addiction can have an effect on studies, on health, whether online gaming can impact on life expenses as well as relationships. So here will be our research questions. So firstly will be, how does online gaming addiction affect studies? How does online gaming addiction impact life expenses? What are the effects of online gaming addiction on our health? And lastly, how are relationships affected by online gaming addiction?
Allow me to also run you through some contents of our literature review. Today, many gameplays have been transferred from the real world to the online world and are verified by software sales. Some popular online games include Valorant, PUBG, Apex Legends, Mobile Legends, Genshin Impact, and many more. These games allow players to, number one, inhabit massive game worlds concurrently, number two, develop virtual alter egos or namely avatars, and number three, play with others all over the world anytime and anywhere. Moreover, according to the latest report of the Entertainment Software Association ESA 2021, nearly 227 million Americans play video games. Two-thirds of adults and three-quarters of kids under 18 play video games weekly. Across all ages, 80% of players are over 18 years old, and the average age of a video game player is 31. In total, players are about half female, 45%, and half male, 55%. From the statistics, it appears that gaming, and particularly online gaming, is an integral element of children's and adolescents' leisure time activities. While gaming is a pleasurable pastime activity, research also suggests that excessive online gaming may in extreme cases lead to addiction. That's why our team decided to conduct a research about this topic because it's important for us to identify the effects of online gaming in different life aspects so that we can identify the possible prevention efforts for those targeted students. Without further ado, let's move on to the research methodology.
Good day, Dr. Khalid. I'm Shan Hong, and I'm going to explain about our research methodology. In our research, we decided to use covariance sampling to collect primary data for our research because it allows us to collect large amount of data in a short time, save our cost and also our time. We use Google Form as an instrument for our data collection, and we spread it through social media such as Facebook and WhatsApp, and also email such as Sysmail. To analyze our data, we decided to use SPSS because it provides effective data management, more analysis options, and output organization. During the data analysis process, we firstly perform descriptive data analysis on our data by visualizing them with a bar chart and pie chart. After that, we will define 6 null hypotheses and alternative hypotheses according to our research questions before performing hypothesis testing. We will also set our alpha value to 0.05 as our baseline value to reject the null hypothesis or accept the alternative hypothesis. We will perform the Shapiro-Wilk test to test the normality of our data distribution before we choose the appropriate tests such as parametric and non-parametric tests.
Hi, I'm Leong Jing. I'll be explaining the 2 descriptive analyses that our team carried out for this research. For the first descriptive analysis, the question is, does playing online games ever take priority over studying and attending classes? From the bar chart, you can see that 52 out of 160 respondents claimed that playing online games would never be more important than studying and attending classes, whereas only 8 of them would always prioritize online gaming over studying and attending classes. We can clearly observe that the data are skewed to the left, which is strongly disagree with the questions. Therefore, we can conclude that majority of the respondent, which is 32.5%, do not think that playing online games will ever take priority over studying and attending classes. Moving on to the second descriptive analysis, where the question is, how much do students spend on online games per year? According to the pie chart, most of the respondents, which is 56.3%, stated that they spend less than 100 ringgit on online games per year. 28.6% of them spend a total of 100 ringgit to 500 ringgit on online games annually, while 6.4% of them spend about 500 ringgit to 1000 ringgit per year on online games. There are only 10 of them, which is 8.7%, who spend more than 1000 ringgit on online games in a year. From here, we can conclude that although many respondents are willing to spend money on online games, the majority of them keep their expenses below 100 ringgit in a year. That is all for descriptive analysis.
Hello, Dr. Khalid. It's me, Shan, and I'm going to talk about our first inferential analysis. Our question is, are there any differences in the number of hours spent on playing online games per day between male and female students? Our null hypothesis for this question is, there is no significant difference between the genders in terms of the hours spent on playing online games, while our alternative hypothesis is, there is a significant difference between the genders in terms of the hours spent on playing online games. Now, let us look at the result of the Shapiro-Wilk test first. It shows that the p-value is smaller than 0.001, which is smaller than alpha value of 0.05. Therefore, we can conclude that the data distribution is not in normal form. So we need to use a non-parametric test. Since our independent variable, which is gender, has 2 levels, we will use independent samples Mann-Whitney U test. Based on the result, the p-value is larger than the alpha value. Therefore, we fail to reject the null hypothesis that there is no significant difference between the genders in terms of the hours spent on playing online games.
Next, I'll be talking about our second inferential analysis. So the question is, do the students from different faculties have the similar number of days spent on playing games as a stress reliever in a week? So the null hypothesis will be, there is no significant difference between students from different faculties in terms of the number of days spent on playing online games as a stress reliever in a week. While the alternative hypothesis will be, there is a significant difference between students from different faculties in terms of the number of days spent on playing online games as a stress reliever in a week. So here, for the Shapiro-Wilk test that we have done, we can see that the p-value is smaller than 0.001, which is smaller than our alpha value of 0.05. Hence, our data our data distribution is not in normal form, and we have to use a non-parametric test. So the non-parametric test that we will use is called independent samples Kruskal-Wallis test. This is because our independent variable, which is faculty, has more than 2 levels, so we have to use this test. So as you can see for the result, the p-value that we have gotten is 0.327, which is larger than our alpha value of 0.05. So hence, we have failed to reject the null hypothesis, which is there is no significant difference between students from different faculties in terms of the number of days spent on playing online games as a stress reliever in a week.
Now we go with the third inferential analysis, which is, are there any differences in terms of the frequency of conflicts with friends while playing online games between both genders? The null hypothesis that we have here is that there is no significant difference between both genders in terms of frequency of conflicts while playing online games. But on the other hand, for the alternative hypothesis, we stated that there is a significant difference between both genders in terms of frequency of conflicts with friends while playing online games. Based on the Shapiro-Wilk test, the p-value obtained is smaller than 0.001, which is also smaller than alpha value 0.05. This shows that the data significantly deviate from a normal distribution. Thus, we need to do a non-parametric test. And here, I'm using Mann-Whitney-U test. After analyzing with the test, it reports a p-value of 0.011, which is still smaller than 0.05, the alpha value. Therefore, we can reject the null hypothesis. And the result here supports the proposition that males and females have significantly different frequencies of conflicts with friends while playing online games.
So for inferential analysis 4, we actually talk about do the students from different levels of study thinks that playing online games have different impacts on their grades. For the hypothesis, which is split into two, first one, which is null hypothesis, there is no significant differences between students from different levels of study in terms of their opinion on whether online games will affect their grades. For alternative hypothesis, there is a significant difference between students from different levels of study in terms of their opinion on whether online games will affect their grades. So let's go for the test of normality. We uses the Shapiro-Wilk test. Based on the result test, we obtain p-value which is smaller than 0.001. Since it is smaller than our alpha value, which is 0.05, we can reject the null hypothesis that the data distribution is normal for students from different level of study who think that playing online games will have different impacts on their grades, and accept that the alternative hypothesis, which is the data distribution, is not normally distributed. Based on the results, we should choose a non-parametric test for the hypothesis testing. So at the end, for this, we uses the independent sample Kruskal-Wallis test. From the test conducted shown, the null hypothesis is not rejected because p-value is 0.820, which is larger than alpha value 0.05, which means that there is no significant difference between students from different level of studies in terms of their opinion on whether online games will affect their grades. So in conclusion, the result which is fail to reject null hypothesis.
Now I'll be presenting on our fifth inferential analysis. So the question is there any correlation between the number of hours spent on playing online games per day and the amount of money spent on online games per year? So our null hypothesis will be there is no significant correlation between the number of hours spent on playing online games per day and the amount of money spent on online games per year, while our alternative hypothesis states that there is a significant correlation between the number of hours spent on playing online games per day and the amount of money spent on online games per year. Based on the results of our correlation test, we can see that the p-value is smaller than 0.001. which is smaller than our alpha value of 0.05. So therefore, we'll reject our null hypothesis.
Hello, Dr. Khalid. It's me again. So now I'm going to present our last inferential analysis. Our question is there any significant relationship between the number of hours spent on playing online games per day and this frequency of conflicts with friends while playing online games? Our null hypothesis for this question is there is no significant relationship between the number of hours spent on playing online games per day and the frequency of conflicts with friends while playing online games. Our alternative hypothesis is there is a significant relationship between the number of hours spent on playing online games per day and the frequency of conflicts with friends while playing online games. Based on the result of the chi-square test, the p-value is smaller than 0.05, which is smaller than the alpha value. Therefore, we reject the null hypothesis.
Now, let us look at the results discussion of the research. For hypothesis testing, we will accept the null hypothesis when the p-value is greater than the standard alpha value 0.05. However, we will reject the null hypothesis and accept the alternative hypothesis if the p-value is smaller than the standard alpha value 0.05. So these are all the results that we deduce after we reject or accept the null hypothesis. First, genders do not affect the number of hours spent on online games per day. Second, we realize that students from different faculties may have similar number of days spent on online games as a stress reliever per week. Third, different genders may have different frequencies of conflicts with friends while playing online games. Next, level of studies of the students do not influence their opinion on whether online games will affect their grades. And lastly, the frequency of conflict changes as the number of hours spent on online gaming per day changes. In conclusion, there are altogether 2 descriptive analysis and 6 hypothesis testing being carried out in this research. Our team successfully achieved all the 4 objectives, which are: we investigated how online gaming affects studies, determined whether online gaming addiction can impact life expenses, identified the effect of health caused by online gaming addiction, and understood how online gaming addiction can affect relationships. Besides, there are some lessons that our team has learned through this research project. For instance, we learned how to apply a sampling technique to collect data, how to carry out data analysis and generate results using SPSS, how to do normality testing to determine whether we should conduct a parametric test or a non-parametric test, how to perform descriptive analysis, inferential analysis, bivariate analysis, and when to reject or accept the null hypothesis. Last but not least, we get to know that teamwork is very important in making our research a huge success. That is all from our group. Thank you.